Okay, so our first question is, should design skills be taught as a requirement for using technology? What do you think?
Right. I said at the elementary level, design skills should be taught. It can be taught through different technologies, but our focus is mostly on the content. And so therefore, I feel like it's design skills through specific apps that you're using to provide extra support for those content areas. And then just having, if you work with a partner and things like that, then having them make sure that one of them is on the creative side, especially with the younger kids, just so that you don't have two kids who are sitting there like, I have no idea what to do. I can't do this type of thing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
just make sure there's an even mix of that.
I think that oftentimes actually the content takes the back burner in classrooms and it becomes too easy to get sidetracked by how pretty is it, what can you make it do, and we lose
Mhm.
track of the fact that they really need to be learning those concepts. It has nothing to do with how pretty it is. Um, but I do think that they do need to be taught how to use those things, PowerPoint and such, because otherwise they won't know. But I talked a lot about, I think that it needs to be scaffolded. So, like in kindergarten, I might introduce them to PowerPoint and just let them play on it and let them explore it by inquiry. But then in first grade, they might need to actually design something. And then, but by scaffolding it that way, by the time they get to fifth or sixth grade or high school, the things that they could do really could be amazing.
Right. And definitely, I completely agree with that. Just making sure that, they know the simple things and not trying to make it too fancy. I know that with some of my friends, we've talked about when I was student teaching, they did inquiry assignments at the end of every unit. And a lot of them did PowerPoints, and they spent so much time making it pretty, and
Yeah.
they would just have to plug in all this content, and you just wouldn't get to that. But just like you said, the content kind of takes the back burner,
But it's
and so with
amazing. It's amazing what those kids know it should do. Like
yes,
in kindergarten, they're like, "How do I make it, come to life?" And I'm like, "No, no, no, we're not going to do that today."
yeah, we just need to make sure that we have all of the information there. Yeah, that's one thing that I've had to work with, especially with my students for second grade on, because we started using some of the technologies and stuff like that and doing projects. And they just are like, okay, how do we make it pretty? I was like, put the content in first and then make it pretty if you have extra time.
Yeah,
So that's one thing that we're definitely working on. So I think that's definitely important for them to have, especially as you get to high school, because you have all these group projects and a lot of them are going, to online projects, just, like these where it's, you can be working with someone who's not even in your same, for them, it's not in your same neighborhood or whatever. But,
yeah, yeah,
and then, so just being
yeah,
able to use that effectively.
yeah. Uh,
Okay. So then are we ready for the next question?
yeah, I think so.
Okay. And so then we said, if so, in what grade and in what classes
And I think we
would
kind
you
of
use?
touched on that with
Mhm.
scaffolding it, introducing it earlier. If you introduce it in early elementary, even as early as kindergarten, you won't need to take as much time in middle school or high school teaching them the basics because they'll already know.
Right. And I have a couple friends who actually taught high school that I talked to about this assignment. I was like, okay, so what do you think? And they actually teach computer classes. And so it was interesting for me to hear like, oh, we don't actually have to spend any time on those basics because they already know them. And so definitely having them already taught. And then like my niece is in fifth grade and she's at a one-to-one school. And they actually have time cut out in the curriculum each day, and it's only like 10 minutes every day, but they have 10 minutes that they designate towards technology and like focusing on things that they might be misunderstood, or maybe there's a setting that they need to know how to turn on that they don't know how to turn on, or
Yeah.
just things like that. And so I thought maybe, every once in a while taking those 10 minutes and using it as teaching some design skills for different things that are commonly used in the classroom.
And I think that some of those basic skills that we teach, I keep saying kindergarten because that's what I most recently taught, but the things that we teach in kindergarten are so often overlooked. Like I had the superintendent observing me once and he was like, I never realized you have to teach them how to open a glue bottle. You have to teach them how to turn on a computer. Like you have to really scale it back because they don't all have it at home.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of basic skills that we do start early so that when they get ready and they really need to be using those tools, they already know what to do.
Yes, definitely. And my kids use computer every day. Like some of our reading rotations and math rotations is the computers. And so I even had to go back to the beginning of the year and be like, okay, this is how you open a browser. Make sure for this one we use Google Chrome because it doesn't work on anything else, or
Yeah.
things like that. And they're just like, what? Chrome? What? And I'm like, okay, go back to this little icon. So we have like pictures ID
Yep.
with all of like next to all the colors of how to do things like that. So
Yep.
definitely knowing the basics is really important.
Our next question says, what alternatives could we develop for those with vision or other impairments, such as sign language, audio transcriptions, etc.?
Okay, so in regards to the alternatives, I've had some experience with that. Last year, I had 3 students in my class that were had vision needs. 1 was legally blind and 2 had vision impairments. And so they used what was called a CCTV. And so you put paper, like printed information, or you can even use like iPads, you put it underneath and then it projects onto a screen that's in front of you like a computer. And so that was really helpful. And then you can you can see where your finger is underneath it. And then you can it helps them even to write as well as like reading. But it would also help with technology. They kind of blow that up so that way they could kind of see. I know if you have Apple products, there is something that you can enlarge. It's like an enlarging feature, so it automatically zooms in. And I know some of the iPads were just permanently like that, and they just had to use the same iPad every time. And then the other thing that I found, I was looking at this article, and they said that there's an auto exam player, which it coordinates with VoiceOver. So, VoiceOver, everything that you open on the iPad and everything is read to you. An auto exam player actually translates tests into auto recordings. And so therefore you don't have to take the time out of, when you're helping all those other students that you have to help and that kind of thing. And then they don't realize, oh, that person has to have that test read to them. It can just be read to them if you don't want it read to everyone else, or everyone else isn't allowed to listen to it. I know in my class, I don't really have to worry about that because I read all of the tests to all of them because I have 17 ESL students. So a lot of them, it's more of, okay, can I actually read that? Is not what we're testing them over. It's the content area unless it is reading. So. Yeah.
I touched on some visual impairments as well, and I talked about a Brailler. We had a student at my school that was blind, completely blind, and so we did a lot of his work on the Brailler, which was just like a normal keyboard, except for it could type in Braille or in regular. So that was really helpful for him because he could be able to do that. And I said, using that Brailler keyboard, you can hook it up to a regular computer and type as normal, but it's in Braille, so they would be able to use that to type in. And I also talked about for hearing impairments, just having an interpreter. So if they were presenting, they would have been able to make their presentation or whatever they were doing fine, and they could just have an interpreter to help to share. They could be doing it in sign language, and the interpreter would be interpreting for everyone else to hear what they were saying.
Yeah, and that's some great stuff too. We actually had my student who was legally blind. She had a machine that actually hooked up to the iPad, and so whenever she typed, it turned into like actual typing. And then, but we also had a full-time Brailleist at our school, and so that was really helpful because I was like, I would not have been able to translate all of those tests and all the worksheets and everything into all of that. So that was
I looked at from a school in Florida. It's just their SPED document, and it just had so many ideas for accommodations. So I think the best way to find the best accommodations is just to talk to your SPED department.
Definitely, I think so too. And I also know that last year we also had a student who couldn't hear very well, and so the teacher talked through a microphone. And so like having those speakers and things like that, just trying to find all those different accommodations to have, you can put them up towards the front, but they might not like sitting at the front of the classroom all the time, all year long, especially because we mostly put some of behavior kids up front too. So then you're just kind of like, oh, they distract me. So then you could put them around the room, and then you could and it helped with some of the kids because then you didn't have to yell and you didn't strain your voice all the time by trying to yell over all of the kids.
And kids think microphones are pretty cool. Yeah,
they do. And then if they get to talk into the microphone, they're like, yes.
I just had a fake microphone in my class for when we did sharing. They got to talk into the fake microphone, and they thought that was pretty cool. So
that is really neat. Okay.
And then it just says to put some articles, and I think that we both talked about, we found some great sources. So
yeah. Yes, I think so too. And then for the video, which video did you watch?
I don't remember.
Okay. I watched the one about the creativity. And so for that one, it was an online class, and she had I think it was 44,000 students or something. It was that one. And she had them do an introduction, and she had them make a cover of an autobiography. And so they got to use creativity, and so there was one guy that was jumping, and then another person had a whole bunch of art and random pictures and things like that. And so just having them come up with different things like that as a form of creativity, and using those different skills, because obviously they were done on the computer, and so using those different skills that they would have been taught at a younger age for like this high school or college
Yeah, I
age.
think that's amazing. It's
So,
just amazing. The things that they can do is crazy.
yes, definitely.
I read a lot when I was doing some researching on it, a lot about here in the UK, because that's where I live. I found it interesting that they start, my son is 3, just turned 3, and they do design and technology at his nursery school that he goes to a half day. I mean, like, it's amazing the things that they start here, and the design and technology programs that they have here just blow me away. He has a huge, it's like 40-inch TV, but it's an iPad, and it hangs on the wall, and they play on it, and it's just amazing because then I think about the things that those kids are going to be capable of that, I mean, we weren't capable of at their ages.
Right, exactly. That is so crazy. So yeah, I'd never seen one of those before in a school because we have
And
like a smart board, but
yeah, I had a smartboard too, and I found a lot of information about here in the UK. It is a part of their day, so they have reading, they have math, they have science, and they have D&T, design and technology. So it is like just another core of their curriculum. It's not something extra or anything. It just is part of their day.
that's crazy because I know for where I teach, it's technology is like a class, but it's once a week.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they get some out of it, but not as much as, you would like them to get.
I'm really hoping to get my other son will start nursery half day in January, and I'm hoping to take that time to kind of go observe in some of the schools because the things that they do just blow me away.
Yeah, that's crazy that it's starting so early. I feel like it's starting earlier all the time.
Yeah, it is. It is. All right.